It's 8:52 on a Tuesday morning, and you're standing outside a glass office building, holding a coffee that's already gone cold, staring at a number on your banking app that shouldn't exist. $1,004,212.87. You blink, you refresh, it's still there. Somewhere behind you, through the revolving doors, your manager is setting up the same conference room for the same 9 o'clock stand-up you've sat through 400 times. You have 11 minutes to decide who you're going to be for the rest of your life. You don't remember the exact day you started. That's the strange part. There was no lightning bolt moment, no dramatic decision scrawled in a journal. There was just a Tuesday 2 years ago when you were tired of feeling behind, and you moved $340 into an account you didn't tell anyone about. You called it something boring. You didn't watch it every day. You just kept feeding it, quietly, the way you'd water a plant you didn't expect to survive the winter. The first 6 months were nothing. You put in what you could, sometimes $50, sometimes $300, whatever was left after rent, and the minimum payment on the card you swore you'd pay off. You read at night instead of scrolling, filings, breakdowns, the kind of material that puts most people to sleep in 4 minutes. You didn't tell your roommate. You didn't tell your parents. You especially didn't tell the guy at work who'd once cornered you for 20 minutes explaining his crypto strategy like it was scripture. You learned early that silence wasn't shame, it was insulation. Month 9, the account crossed $9,000. You sat with that number the way you'd sit with a secret you weren't sure you were allowed to have. You didn't buy anything. You didn't tell anyone. You went to work the next day and answered emails about a project you didn't care about. And somewhere underneath the fluorescent lighting and the calendar full of meetings, a second version of your life was quietly compounding. By month 14, you had a system. Not a hunch, not a hot tip from a forum. An actual system, built from 18 months of reading things other people skipped. You understood debt structures the way some people understand recipes. You knew which numbers in a filing told the truth and which ones were dressed up for the cameras. You started to notice something uncomfortable. Most people around you weren't bad at this because they were incapable. They were bad at it because no one had ever made them sit still long enough to learn. You kept driving the same car with the check engine light you'd been ignoring for a year. Rule 1. The one you never said out loud. Your lifestyle can't become a receipt for what you're actually worth. The moment people can read your bank account off your face, they start writing themselves into it. Month 18. The first real risk. You moved $22,000 into a position you'd tracked for 11 weeks, the kind of move that would have made the old you sick to your stomach. It dropped 12% in 9 days. You didn't panic. You didn't tell anyone. You went to work, smiled through a meeting about quarterly numbers that belonged to somebody else's life, and came home to watch the account alone, the way you always had. 6 weeks later, it was up 34%. You didn't celebrate. You just kept going. This is the part nobody glamorizes. There's no explosion, no montage. There's a person sitting at a kitchen table at 11 p.m., recalculating the same spreadsheet for the 9th time that week, learning that the feeling of progress and the fact of progress are two very different things, and only one of them can be trusted. Around this time, you start noticing a shift in the way you move through your own life. You sit differently in meetings, spine a little straighter, opinions a little less desperate to please. Nothing about your title has changed, but something behind your eyes has. Once in a while, a coworker glances at you a beat too long, like they sense something without being able to name it. You start understanding how much of your identity had been rented out to a system that would replace you in a week if you disappeared. You keep that thought to yourself. Month 22, your sister asks if you can help with a car repair. $600. You have the money sitting 3 clicks away, more than enough to fix it and never think about it again. You send $300 instead, framed as, "what I can spare right now." You hate how easy the lie comes, but you've watched what happens to people who let everyone know what they have. A friend from your old apartment complex won $40,000 on a settlement 2 years back and told his whole building, Within 14 months, he was borrowing gas money. Not because the money disappeared, because he let everyone else spend it through him, one small favor at a time, until there was nothing left that was actually his. So you keep building in the dark. Month 26, the account crosses $310,000. You still eat the same lunch you've eaten for 3 years. You still let your coworkers assume you're one bad month from asking to borrow rent. You've started to understand that the discipline protecting the number is the same discipline slowly isolating you from being fully known by anyone. There's a night around month 29 when you almost break. You're at your uncle's birthday dinner, and he's talking, proud, about a 7% year in his retirement account. Something in your chest wants to tell him what your year actually looked like. You open your mouth. You ask him a question about his fund instead. Walking to your car afterward, you realize that was a test you didn't know you were taking. You passed it. You're not sure yet if passing it cost you something. Month 31 brings the closest call of all. A cousin, half joking at a family gathering, says you've been acting different lately, calmer, like you know something nobody else does. It's said as a joke. It lands like a spotlight. You laugh it off, change the subject, ask about her kids. You drive home that night replaying the sentence 15 times, wondering if you'd let something slip in your face without realizing it. Nothing comes of it. But it teaches you something the spreadsheets never could. The discipline isn't just about money. It's about never letting your posture, your tone, or your silence say more than your words do. Month 33, you tell your partner. Not everyone, just them. You brace for the practical objections, the fear dressed up as concern. Instead, their face softens, like they'd been waiting months for permission to want the same thing for themselves. That night, the plan stops being a secret you're carrying alone. It becomes something shared, still invisible to everyone else, but no longer just yours to hold. You sleep better than you have in a year. Month 38, the number crosses $610,000. Your manager pulls you aside for a one-on-one and tells you he wants to see more hunger from you. You nod. Internally, you almost laugh because the hunger didn't disappear. It just stopped pointing anywhere near his goals. You leave the meeting and, for the first time, don't replay it on the drive home. It exists now as information, not verdict. Month 41. You make a mistake that costs you almost as much as the wins have earned you. You get greedy on a position you hadn't researched as thoroughly as you should have, chasing a tip from a forum you knew better than to trust. It costs you $31,000 in 11 days. You don't tell your partner the full number for 3 days, not out of dishonesty, but because you need to sit with it alone first, the way you've sat with everything else. When you finally do tell them, they don't panic either. That's the moment you understand the plan isn't just yours anymore. It's something the two of you are building the discipline for, together. Month 44, a market move you'd been positioning for over 5 months, finally breaks your way. In 11 days, the account jumps by $210,000. You sit on the floor of your apartment that night, staring at a total that has just crossed 7 figures, and you don't feel triumph. You feel something closer to disbelief, the kind that makes you check the number 4 separate times before you trust it enough to close the laptop. Which brings you back to Tuesday morning, coffee gone cold, 11 minutes before stand-up, staring at $1,004,212.87 and a decision you didn't know you were finally ready to make. You don't quit that day. You're not reckless. You walk in, sit through the meeting, nod at the Morrison numbers, answer 3 emails that don't matter. But somewhere in the middle of that meeting, you write the resignation email in your head, word for word, the way you'd rehearsed a speech you never planned to give out loud. You send it Thursday. Short, professional. 2 weeks' notice, an offer to help with the transition, no mention of a better opportunity, because the truth would take longer to explain than anyone in that building has the patience to hear. Your manager is surprised. A coworker asks if you got poached. You say something vague and let them believe whatever story is easiest. The 2 weeks pass strangely. You train your replacement on tasks that used to feel urgent and now feel like teaching someone to fold napkins a very specific way. People start treating you differently in small ways, a little warmer, a little more curious, as if leaving has already made you someone else in their eyes before you've actually gone. Your last day is unremarkable. No cake, no card signed by 12 people who never learned your coffee order. You hand back a badge and walk through a parking garage you won't be walking through again into an ordinary Friday afternoon, while the building keeps running exactly the way it always has. It never needed you as much as it needed you to believe it did. You go home. Your partner is there. There's no popping bottle, no framed photo of a bank statement. The celebration already happened months ago, in 1,000 small refusals nobody was watching you make. Refusals to spend, to brag, to need anyone to see what you were building before it was ready to be seen. 3 weeks later, an old coworker messages you, confused, asking what happened, saying you seem different in your photos now. Calmer, lighter, like something's been set down that you'd been carrying so long you forgot it had weight. You don't send a long explanation. You send 5 words back. I just stopped running, scared. The weeks after that settle into a strange new rhythm. You wake up without an alarm, and it takes almost a month before that stops feeling illegal. You start reading again, not filings this time, just books you'd bought years ago and never opened. You notice how much quieter your mind is without a manager's Slack messages threading through it at 7 a.m. You still check the account, but less obsessively now, the way you'd check on something that's finally strong enough to stand without you watching it every hour. Somewhere out there right now, someone is doing the same 6:47 a.m. math you used to do, feeling the same quiet crack forming in their chest. The exit exists. It always did. So here's the only question that actually matters. Are you building something in the dark right now, or are you still waiting for permission to start?